It is time for another season of Husker Chat. I am Jayson Jorgensen, joined as always by Sean Callahan, the publisher, Husker Online. Sean, we made it through the summer. We made it through Big Ten Media Days. We're through fall camp as you look at things, and there was a little bit of drama that popped up. What's the biggest thing, I guess, on the field to come out of fall camp so far for the Big Red?
Yeah, you can go a lot of different ways, but I just think the running back position and, having really three new guys, Sevion Morrison, Marquise Stepp, and then Gabe Ervin, those three guys, we just didn't know where that position was going to be at this point. And then I think receiver on offense, that's going to be a completely different looking group across the board when you just look at Nebraska's wide receiver position.
A lot of talk this preseason about Adrian Martinez. He was just named a team captain for a third year. That's never happened before. What's your read on him? Which version are we going to see? Are we going to see the guy that was benched at one point last year, or are we going to see the guy that showed flashes of greatness as a freshman and was a freshman All-American?
Well, yeah, you go back to his freshman year. He had an NFL wideout, then in Stanley Morgan. Then he had a very engaged version of J.D. Spielman, and then an NFL running back in Divino Zigbo. And that made his job that much easier. He didn't have that type of talent around him in 2019. And when he was forced to kind of do it all, I think the pressure of that got to him and it just didn't work. And then in 2020, he put up decent numbers, but it was just the turnovers that really soured the year, the fumbles and the unforced errors. And I think some of that's going to be improved, Jason, because the talent around him is going to be better. And I think you want to limit those runs for more meaningful situations for Martinez, where it almost got to the point where he became the quarterback and the running back. And that's just not a sustainable winning formula.
Today on Husker Chat, we're joined by Sean Callahan, the publisher of Husker Online. Now, a number of super seniors came back, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They certainly improved last year more than any aspect of the team. How do you see them going forward, and how good could this defense be?
Well, I think there's a lot of material there. The depth on the front seven is what jumps out to me. I think Ty Robinson, Ben Stilley, Damian Daniels, those are NFL level guys. Then you have good depth in Jordan Riley and Casey Rogers and the other DeAndre Thomas, who got a black shirt. That's a really good group up front to work with. Then at linebacker, JoJo Domann to me is really the Swiss Army knife, the guy that makes all this happen with what he can give them on the edge. Then on the flip side, Garrett Nelson, Caleb Tanner, Faldarius Payne are pass rushers. So I love that front seven. And then at inside linebacker, there's three guys: Chris Kolarvik, Nick Heinrich, and then Luke Reimer. I mean, I think that's a really, really good group on defense. And then within the secondary, Markel Smuke and Deontay Williams, 2 6-year seniors with an NFL guy in Cam Taylor-Britt. I expect Quentin Newsom will probably be the other starter. So, the material is there, the depth is there, and it's going to make a big difference.
Just kind of seems like a group that's on a mission, that they came back to try to leave Lincoln having accomplished something.
Yeah, I think just the way it ended last year, 3-5, but that Minnesota game, the Illinois game, maybe if they win those two games like they're supposed to, some of those guys move on. But there was no bowl game, just the way it all came down at the end. It just had an incomplete feeling to a lot of guys. And with the uncertainty of the NFL Combine and the draft last year because of COVID, it just made sense for these guys because it would have been a gamble. None of them were surefire picks. So I think they were just like Illinois. Illinois, I believe, has got 20 or 21 super seniors on the other end of this game. And I think for a lot of guys that are kind of in that fringe, it just made sense to come back to college.
I want to get your read on this. It's funny what makes news in the state of Nebraska. It's been this way for a while, but Scott Frost in his press conference yesterday, he was pretty succinct. He didn't give you all a lot of stuff for the amount of time he was there. What's your read on him? Because he certainly looks like a guy that's maybe starting to feel a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, I think when you look at Frost in that presser, I just think he was locked in and dialed in. And, you're right, though, Jason. I mean, there's pressure on Scott Frost. I don't think anybody would be truthful if they would say there isn't right now because he hasn't gotten it done in the first 3 years. This is as big of an opener as Nebraska football's played, arguably to me, since 2003 when they opened with Oklahoma State in a very pivotal year for Frank Solich that ultimately got him fired. So I think when you look at this year for Frost, opening with the Big Ten game, and even it being the 7th place team in the West in the preseason polls, the stakes are really high. And I just think his level of focus on Monday showed that.
As you start to break this one down, what's it going to take for Nebraska to go on the road and ruin the return to the Big Ten for new Illinois head coach Bret Bielema?
I think execution and confidence and just coming out of the gates firing. If they do what they do and execute like they have in camp, they'll win. I think as a 4th-year program with a 4th-year starting quarterback and a bunch of veterans on the defense, Nebraska should win this game. But everybody has been so thrown back by the mental errors, the things that you can control that have affected Nebraska in so many games in the last few years, that no one really wants to confidently pick Nebraska because they've had so much of this. Scott Frost needs to prove that his team is mentally focused and ready to execute, and they will win this game.
Do you think the issues that popped up last week regarding the practices and the NCAA investigation, has that been much of a distraction for this bunch?
No. I don't think the players even know anything about that. I've talked to a few guys off the record on it, and they're like, we don't even care. Like, that's not even a big deal. Like, and if it is, the analyst thing, Jason, is a secondary infraction. That's a slap on the wrist. It's maybe lose some practice hours over the course of the entire year. Might be a recruiting day here or there. So there is nothing other than that currently under investigation, and that should never really be a big deal in a locker room.
All right. Hopefully all goes well this weekend when Nebraska travels east. Sean, as always, we appreciate your time and your insights.
Hey, thank you, Jason.
And that was Sean Callahan, the publisher of HuskerOnline, joining us for HuskerChat. Once again, we will be here each week throughout the season. I'm Jayson Jorgensen.